Hi, my name is Emily Lawton. I'm a parent and infant relational specialist at the Center for Autism and Early Childhood Mental Health at Montclair State University. You are joining me today to talk about attachment and early relational health part 2. We are going to spend time on infant behavior and cues, attachment and attunement, interactive mismatch and repair, toxic stress, trauma-informed care, wonder and reflective parenting, and resources. Let's talk about what newborns are capable of. It's pretty extraordinary. Newborns can recognize the sound of their mother's voice from birth and respond to sounds in utero from 25 weeks on. Canadian and Chinese researchers found that fetuses 30 weeks of age or older increase their heart rate when their mother read to them versus a stranger. They're already recognizing their mama's voice. Newborns can visually track, just means they can follow an object or a face from side to side. Newborns can hear and locate sound and prefer their mother's voice to any other. Newborns can habituate. That's just a fancy term to say that newborns can tune out stimuli that's not harmful to them. So they can fall asleep in a noisy restaurant, they can fall asleep with music on, they can protect their brain from noise that isn't harmful to them. Newborns can recognize their mother's voice and smell from birth. Newborns can discriminate their mother's face from a stranger. They can recognize emotional expressions, and they prefer the human face over all other stimuli and are sensitive to eye gaze from the beginning. That study has been done around the world. Babies always prefer human faces. Infant behavior. We talk about infant behavior. It is the way that babies communicate. They don't have words, so they use their behavior to tell us what they like and what they don't like. Newborns come to us with a lot of competencies. We know they're really capable of lots of things and have their own likes and dislikes. Infant behavior has meaning. We call these behaviors approach or avoidance cues. So if babies are feeling interested and feel like the stimuli is appropriate, they may move towards it, meaning they'll have their eyes open, they might reach towards it. Avoidance cues means that maybe the stimuli is a little bit stressful and they maybe aren't feeling capable of coping with it. Lucky for us, babies are born with ways to tell us what they like and don't like. The key is to learn their special language by watching and wondering and responding. So there are engagement cues, which are approach cues. The easy cues to see are smiling, looking at your face, reaching out to you, turning eyes or head towards you, smiling, making feeding sounds like smiling, sucking, or smacking, cooing, babbling, and talking. Those are all really obvious cues that a baby is in a happy space and ready to engage. Approach cues that are not as easy to see are eyes wide and bright, face bright, and raising of the head. Disengagement cues, which means that a baby has maybe is feeling a little bit of stress. When a baby needs a little bit of avoidance, your baby is telling you he has had enough and needs a break. Turning head away, crying or fussing, coughing or choking, back arching, falling asleep, squirming or kicking, pulling away from the breast or bottle, pale or red skin, spitting up or vomiting. These are not cues that you need to be alarmed by. They're just signs of mild stress and maybe the baby needs a change. Avoidance cues that are not as easy to see, turning eyes away, fast breathing, yawning can be a mild sign of stress for a baby. Wrinkled forehead, dull looking eyes, frowning, bringing hand to mouth, which is a classic self-soothing mechanism that babies use, and hiccups can also be a sign. Crying, as many of us know, is the most effective tool a baby has to tell us that something's not quite right. Crying is the first language of the newborn and is designed to get our attention. It usually works. Crying peaks at 6 weeks, but there are very large differences between babies. Some babies cry a lot, some babies just a little. Crying is normal. 40% of fussing and crying is inconsolable. Crying typically decreases after 3 months. There are many ways to comfort a fussy or crying baby. Babies really like to be contained or swaddled. So just the way we sort of mimic the way a baby was in the womb, we provide them with a really gentle sort of swaddled, contained blanket or arms to really keep them from flailing limbs and waking themselves up and the sort of overstimulation of their own lack of motor control. Babies like to suck on their hands, on pacifiers, on a breast or bottle. Sucking is very comforting or calming for babies, so always good to help your baby learn how to suck by finding their hands or getting a pacifier. Babies also love to clasp hands and feet, so giving them a hand to clasp or giving them a little bit of touch on the top of their head and the bottom of their feet is a really nice way of providing containment and calming for babies. There are a few images that show some of these examples. I'd like to talk about wonder for a minute, which is reflective parenting. It's how we imagine what a baby is experiencing or a young child. I see you, I want to know you, I am curious about you, I am open to you. We're going to talk a little bit about misattunement, which is really what we say when we say rupture and repair. Attachment is not a sudden and magical bond, but rather slowly unfolding through time. Misattunement happens very often, especially as caregivers and babies are getting to know each other. It's very normal. There is always room for reattuning and repair. We miss lots of serves, back to the serve and return. This is normal. Research tells us if parents or caregivers are returning 30 to 50% of a baby's serves, they are still in great shape for developing secure attachment. So we know that it's really normal to not always pick up on every baby's cues. It's okay if sometimes a baby cries for a little bit and we don't respond immediately. Those little moments of mild stress build resilience. We know that's really important for babies and young children. Rupture, mismatch, and repair. It is the consistent repairing of moment-to-moment ruptures that relationships become strong and children build resilience. Edward Tronick has done an extraordinary amount of work in this. If you're interested, there is a very famous video called The Still Life Experiment that you could find. There are 3 stress responses: positive, tolerable, and toxic. Positive stress are when there are brief elevations in heart rate, mild elevations in stress hormone levels. They're not harmful to a person at all. Tolerable stress are serious, temporary stress responses buffered by supportive relationships. Also not harmful if a child has an adult they can lean on when they feel either afraid or have an injury of some sort, if they're upset. Toxic stress is the stress that is most concerning. Prolonged activation of stress response system, elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol, which we know can really be toxic if it's in anybody's system for too long, children or parents, in the absence of protective relationships. So toxic stress happens when children are exposed over and over to stressful situations without the safety of a caregiver. Stress is normal and can promote growth, but developmental problems and mental health concerns emerge when stress levels are unmanageable. Just to reiterate, I know we've discussed this before, sensitive responsive caregiving is a buffer to stress, and a secure attachment can protect against later trauma. Trauma and challenging behaviors. Typically, we think about behaviors are a way that children communicate, and challenging behaviors are a way that children communicate stress. So symptoms of trauma are often seen as challenging behaviors in young children, such as difficulty with self-regulation, difficulty paying attention and staying focused, difficulty following directions, difficulty controlling impulses, difficulty building and maintaining friendships, and difficulty trusting others and building secure relationships. Trauma-informed care, helping children heal. Nurturing responsive relationships are the most important thing. Safety through predictable routines, which promote regulation, right? We all know how important routines are for young children, whether it's dinner time routines or bedtime routines or morning routines. It's really how children feel a sense of safety and control. Emotional regulation through co-regulation, building trust and intimacy, and practicing joy in everyday pursuits, all lead to promoting resilience through safe, nurturing relationships. Touch is the first sense to develop in the womb and the most advanced at birth. Touch and hearing are the most highly developed senses when a baby is born, and those are the reason for those being most highly developed is that a baby needs to be in close contact with their parents, and touch and hearing are how they recognize and respond to those adults who care for them. Touching and holding your baby stimulates a release of oxytocin. It's the love hormone, makes us feel really, really good. It fills the caregiver with feelings of deep tenderness and allows relaxation. Cortisol levels decrease with touch and provide necessary co-regulation during stress response. So touch is a really positive thing when a child is experiencing stress. Social interaction, talking, playing, and engaging with your baby or child sparks oxytocin as well, so it feels good and builds love and connection. We're going to talk for a minute about best infant placement to promote safety and secure attachment. One placement goal: no group or transitional facilities, avoid moves between 6 and 30 months, most ideally. That's when the attachment relationship is really being formed, as we talked about, kind of between birth and 18 to 24 months. Support foster parent capacities to care for the infant. Recognize the importance of early attachment experiences. Babies can tolerate 2 to 3 primary attachments. Achieve timely and nurturing permanent placement of infants and toddlers, and recognize the importance of early intervention. The role of infant mental health and early relational health objectives: decreasing caregiver stress, increasing caregiver behavioral and emotional regulation, enhancing caregiver responsiveness to young children, promoting dyadic interaction via play and routines. Dyadic is just the parent and the child. Promoting attachment security, improving caregiver-child interaction like serve and return, consideration of the voices of young children, reflection on caregiver behaviors and feelings, and focusing on parallel process. The parent-child relationship is the most powerful health intervention known to mankind. It's pretty powerful thought. Some additional therapeutic strategies that come from Alicia Lieberman from the National Child Traumatic Stress Network. She's also written some really powerful books. Translate the caregiver and child's meanings for one another to foster mutual understanding. Speak for the baby. Reframe meanings to promote protectiveness, empathy, trust, and pleasure. Help the caregiver and child use love to tolerate ambivalence. Create a therapeutic alliance. Use play, and practice joy in everyday moments. The Safe Haven Creed was developed by the founder of my program here at the Center for Autism and Early Childhood Mental Health, Dr. Jerry Costa. The Safe Haven Creed sounds like this: you are safe, I will protect you, you can play. It's used often with young children who have experienced trauma or who need reassurance that they are safe. Being with. Some very important research is finding that our choice to understand and share the feelings our children have is one of the most essential gifts we have to offer. We call this gift being with. Our willingness to be with babies and children and feel some of what they feel gives them an experience of being safe and connected as they learn about emotions. Some wonderings about babies and toddlers with curiosity and openness. What is this baby and child feeling or experiencing? Why is she crying or fussing? I wonder what she is going to do next. I wonder what she needs from me. What was that diaper change, bath, loud noise experience like for her? What does she like? What does she tolerate well? What does she dislike? When does she really need my help to be calm and comforted? And what do babies and young children need? Universally, babies need protection, nurturing, and shared joy and delight. Babies need to be in relationships with safe, responsive, co-regulating adults. Babies need calm, comforting care, with caregivers responding to cues and helping the baby to calm and focus. Co-regulation leads to self-regulation. Babies need to be held and fed in a gentle and sensitive way. Babies need to be talked and sung to. Babies prefer faces to objects and are born ready to socialize. Babies need to be seen and heard and delighted and loved. This almost last slide is just an image of Winnie the Pooh and Little Piglet. Pooh whispered Piglet. Yes, Piglet said Pooh. Oh, nothing said Piglet. I was just making sure of you. It's one of my favorites. Self-care. We who work with and care for infants, young children, and families have our own emotional histories that must be attended to through reflection, support, and supervision. So give yourself grace when you're doing this good work. There's a list of resources that I love, all of my very favorites. Some of this information from this presentation today was taken from some of those resources, and my email and name are at the end of the slide, so please feel free to reach out with questions or comments or need for resources. Thank you so much.